For parents heading back to work after spending time home with their little ones, the transition, we know, it can be tricky for both parents and the child, especially when it comes to sleep. So here with expert advice on how to help your child sleep better when they're not with you, sleep expert Alanna McGinn joins me this morning. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's when we need them to sleep,
Yes.
when we go back to work.
We all do.
When it comes to a regular sleep routine, everybody needs to be on board, not just mom and dad, but also any other caregivers. Why is this important?
So it's important, to keep your toddler or baby well rested. It's really important to keep them on that same routine. So this is where both the child care provider and the parent, no matter who that might be, really needs to come together. And we're almost think of it like a co-parenting relationship, right? So to put that sleep plan together and then to communicate the sleep plan, make those goals early on and really try and meet them in order to keep the child well rested.
Why is this so important? I mean, there's people out there who say if they're tired, they'll just go to sleep. But we know that's not the case. Consistent sleep routines, they're essential to sleep. But why is that? So
when we meet those consistent sleep patterns, it helps the child fall asleep a lot easier. And we all know what a well-rested child is like. We all know what a not well-rested child is like, right? So keeping them on consistent sleep routines and then also keeping them in a consistent sleep environment is going to help when they're away from home as well.
So what would be that consistent sleep environment? What's important for that?
So when they're at home, making sure that they're napping in the same location during the day, making sure that they're napping or sleeping in the same room at night. And then when they're away from home, whether they be at grandma and grandpa's house or if they're in an in-home daycare or a daycare center, making sure there's that designated area so that they're familiar to that space because it's an unfamiliar environment, right? Mm-hmm. So making that consistent space is going to help them feel more safe and secure and therefore fall asleep a lot easier. And then you can bring in certain tools that's going to keep that environment more familiar. Things like using a white noise machine.
Right.
Works really well because it keeps that familiar sound from home. So if you use one from home, bring it with you to that child care provider's location. Favorite stuffed animal, blankets, so those familiar sights, sounds, and smells can really work. And then blacking out the room, making it conducive for sleep as well, making sure the sleep space is nice and dark.
Yeah, we're big advocates of the white noise. We just came back from Florida. We were there for Disney World.
Yes.
Yeah, and the sound machine, we find instantly the second we turn it on, both kids start to relax because they know, okay, this is bedtime.
Right. And what I tell parents to do is buy two. So leave one at home, pack one in your daycare, your child care bag, and then leave one at that location so you're not forgetting it and then you always have it.
What about when it comes to nighttime sleep? Why is nighttime sleep so important for daytime sleep?
So nighttime, the better rested they're sleeping at, think of it like a 24-hour cycle, right? So the better they sleep during the day, the better they're going to sleep at night. The better they sleep at night, the better they're going to sleep during the day. So the one tip that I do give parents, and this really does fall more on the parents than it does the child care provider, is to teach those independent sleep skills before starting daycare or before starting any kind of child care, even if they're sleeping at grandma and grandpa's. Because that's just, we can't kind of put it on the provider to teach the child that. So when they have those independent sleep skills in place before starting, it's a big transition to start child care, right? So it just makes them falling asleep in a different location that much easier.
Okay. And then the independent sleep, we all know it's so hard to get them to sleep on their own, but what are some of the things that we're doing that is stopping them from being able to sleep on their own? What are the bad habits we get into?
So, I hate the term bad habits because I don't want a parent to ever feel bad for doing that, but, but you have to you do have to teach them those independent sleep skills. So things like rocking to sleep, bouncing to sleep, feeding to sleep, things like that. Once a child reaches a certain age, you can start breaking those associations, and that's where you're following those consistent sleep patterns. That's where you're doing that consistent sleep environment. All those tools help, and then obviously choosing the method that works best for you to help break those associations and teach those independent sleep skills.
And Alanna, I think it's important for parents to know that it is hard to get through some of these and to break some of these choices that we've made, and that's okay if it's a little bit hard.
Absolutely.
It does get easier.
Absolutely, it gets easier, and I always tell parents, you're helping the child at the end of the day, right? So it is hard. It's never an easy decision. And that's where you also want to ask the questions too when you're doing your research and you're finding that child care provider. Ask them, will they follow your sleep schedule? Will they work with you? Will they work with you on the plan? Because at the end of the day, it's just going to make it easier for the child.
What about bedtimes? For toddlers, where should we be aiming?
For toddlers, I always say even a 2-year-old, I don't go past 7. So I kind of, in that toddler phase, I really do go with the 7 to 7:30. It really depends on how they sleep during the day. So if naps aren't so great, bedtime should be earlier. And whenever you're doing that transition to childcare, again, whether it be at a center, at an in-home with grandma and grandpa, it's a big transition. And normally it means a parent is going back to work. So there's that chaotic flow that's going in, that stress. And we as adults tend to go to sleep earlier because we know our body, but we kind of forget to put our kids to bed a little bit earlier. So I know parents fight me on this because I get that it's hard. You're going back to work. You got to get home, make dinner, do all that, early bedtime.
You haven't seen them all day.
You haven't seen them all day. But if you can even do just 15 minutes earlier and really work on that earlier bedtime, and then open up that communication with the provider. How was naps? Or let them know how nighttime went. So if it didn't go great, they know they have to focus on naps. And just, again, bringing in that communication.
Okay, it's all about talking.
Alanna,
thank you so much for being here this
me.
morning.